Madeline had been working the night shift on the cargo freighter Celestial Horizon for 3 months now, and she thought she'd seen everything the galaxy could throw at a human maintenance technician. She was wrong. The growling started around 0200 hours, a series of high-pitched, frustrated snarls echoing through the ventilation system above her head. Madeline paused mid-weld, her plasma torch hissing into silence as she tilted her head to listen. The sound was distinctly organic, distinctly young, and distinctly stuck. "Great," she muttered, setting down her equipment. "Just what I needed tonight." The Celestial Horizon had taken on passengers at the last station, a delegation of Krillian diplomats traveling to the Accord Summit. The Krillians were apex predators from a high-gravity world, standing nearly 8 feet tall with midnight black fur, razor-sharp claws, and a reputation that made most species give them a wide berth. They looked like the universe's answer to what would happen if a bear and a panther had a baby, and that baby lifted weights. Humans, as usual, were unimpressed by appearances. Madeline grabbed her toolkit and a flashlight, following the increasingly pitiful growls to a ventilation access panel near the cargo bay's eastern wall. She popped it open and peered inside, her light cutting through the darkness. Two large, amber eyes stared back at her, reflecting the beam like twin moons. Then came a tiny, squeaky roar that was clearly meant to be threatening, but came out more like a kitten with attitude. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me," Madeline said, unable to suppress a grin. Wedged in the narrow vent shaft was a Krillian cub, no bigger than a house cat, his dark fur puffed out in distress. He'd somehow managed to squeeze himself into a section where the vent narrowed, and now his pudgy belly and fluffy hindquarters were thoroughly stuck. His front paws scrabbled uselessly at the metal, claws scratching with futile determination. "All right, little guy," Madeline said softly, setting her flashlight to illuminate the shaft. "Let's get you out of there." The cub's ears flattened against his skull, and he hissed, a sound that probably worked great for intimidating littermates, but did absolutely nothing to a human who'd grown up with barn cats in rural Montana. Madeline assessed the situation. The vent was too narrow for her to crawl through, but she could reach in with her arms. The problem was the cub himself. Krillians, even young ones, possessed strength that could snap bones if they panicked. "Easy now," she murmured, slowly extending her hand. "I'm not going to hurt you." The cub snapped at her fingers, tiny fangs clicking together just shy of her skin. Madeline didn't flinch. Instead, she did something that would have horrified the Krillian diplomats. She laughed. "You're adorable when you're angry," she said, and before the cub could process this incomprehensible human behavior, she'd grabbed him gently but firmly by the scruff of his neck. The cub froze, instinct overriding panic. Madeline carefully maneuvered him backward, using her other hand to compress his fluffy sides as she extracted him from the vent like a cork from a bottle. With a final tug and an indignant yowl, the cub popped free, dangling from Madeline's grip with all the dignity of a wet sock. She set him down on the deck plating, and he immediately tried to puff himself up to maximum intimidation size, arching his back and hissing. He looked like a particularly angry black cotton ball. Yeah, you're terrifying," Madeline said, sitting cross-legged in front of him. "What were you doing in the vents anyway, little explorer?" As if understanding the question, the cub's bravado deflated. He sat down heavily, looking up at the open vent with what could only be described as embarrassment. A small whimper escaped his throat. Madeline's expression softened. "Got curious and got yourself in trouble, huh? Been there, buddy." She reached into her tool belt and pulled out her ration bar, a chocolate-flavored protein brick that tasted like cardboard but kept her going through long shifts. She broke off a piece and offered it to the cub. He sniffed it suspiciously, then looked at her with those huge amber eyes. Slowly, carefully, he took the piece from her palm, his tiny fangs barely grazing her skin. He chewed thoughtfully, then made a sound that might have been approval. "Thought you might like that," Madeline said, offering another piece. For the next 10 minutes, human and predator sat together in the dimly lit cargo bay, sharing a terrible ration bar and forming an unlikely friendship. The cub eventually ventured close enough to sniff Madeline's hands, her boots, and finally, with the fearless audacity of youth, attempted to climb into her lap. "Oh no you don't," Madeline said, catching him mid-climb. "Your parents are probably losing their minds looking for you." As if summoned by her words, A thunderous roar echoed through the ship's corridors. The cub's ears perked up, and he let out an answering chirp that sounded like, "I'm here. I'm okay. Please don't eat the humans." Heavy footfalls approached, and moments later, three massive Krillian adults rounded the corner. The largest, presumably the cub's mother, froze when she saw the scene. Her smallest offspring sitting contentedly in the arms of a human who stood barely half her height. Madeline slowly stood, cradling the cub carefully. "I believe this belongs to you," she said calmly, meeting the mother's fierce gaze without flinching. "He got stuck in the ventilation system. I got him out." The Krillian mother approached cautiously, her massive form tense. She could have torn Madeline apart without breaking a sweat. Instead, she gently took her cub, examining him for injuries with maternal thoroughness. Finding none, she looked back at Madeline with an expression that transcended species barriers, gratitude mixed with the universal exhaustion of a parent dealing with an adventurous child. "Thank you, human," she rumbled in heavily accented standard. "You have our debt." Madeline waved it off. "No debt necessary. Kids will be kids, no matter what species. Just maybe keep an eye on this one. He's got the curiosity gene." The cub, now safely in his mother's arms, looked back at Madeline and gave a tiny, cheerful growl. She winked at him, but as the Krillian family departed, Easton, the ship's co-pilot and Madeline's boyfriend, emerged from the bridge access corridor, looking confused. "Did I just see a Krillian diplomat bowing to you?" Madeline picked up her plasma torch, a small smile playing at her lips. "Just making friends, Easton. Just making friends." "By doing what exactly?" "Oh, you know," she said, reigniting her torch with a practiced flick. "Standard human stuff. Fearlessly climbing into tight spaces, petting things that could kill us, and bribing apex predators with chocolate." Easton shook his head, laughing. "Humanity, fuck yeah." "Damn right," Madeline agreed, returning to her work while tiny, grateful growls still echoed in the distance.